My name is Patrick. I'm 58 years old, originally from Texas. I worked in finance my whole life, started when I was 21, and by the time I hit 51, I'd had enough. I'd put in 3 full decades. I was tired, burnt out, not in a crisis, just done with the whole corporate shenanigans. I hated the politics, the pretending and not being able to express myself. I played the corporate game, and I played it well, but deep down I resented everything about it. I never got married. I dated here and there, but nothing serious ever lasted. I always blamed my job, late nights, early mornings, constant travel. But if I'm being honest, maybe I just never really connected. Maybe that part of life always felt out of reach. When I finally walked away from the job, I had everything people say you should want. A paid-off house in Austin, investments doing well, no debt, and enough saved up to retire early. I was 51 with no kids, no wife, and for the first time, no responsibilities, just time. So I booked a one-way flight to Thailand. The plan was simple: travel the country, live a little, maybe even find a spot to settle down. I wasn't looking for women. I wasn't chasing a fantasy. I just wanted quiet. And for 2 years, that's what I had. From Chiang Mai to Krabi, I saw it all. Then the pandemic hit. Borders closed, flights cancelled, everything locked down, and somehow, I ended up in Pattaya, of all places. I found a condo going for next to nothing, because everyone was fleeing the scene. I figured I'd ride it out by the beach, and just wait until the world opened up again. But when it did, I didn't leave. And looking back now, maybe that's where it really began. Not with a girl, not with a drink, just a quiet decision to stay in a place that felt easy. I thought I was building a peaceful new life. I didn't realize I was walking straight into the fire. When the world shut down, I found myself in Pattaya almost by accident. I had just wrapped up 2 full years of slow travel through Thailand, bouncing from north to south, city to beach, trying to take in as much of the country as I could. Chiang Mai gave me peace. Bangkok gave me movement. Phuket, color. I thought I'd seen enough to carry on to the next chapter, maybe Vietnam, maybe Portugal. I wasn't in a rush, but I was ready to keep moving. Then everything stopped. Borders closed. Flights vanished. Streets went quiet. The energy that had drawn me to Asia in the first place faded into stillness. A part of me panicked. I'd never planned to settle anywhere just yet, but another part of me welcomed the stillness. Pattaya wasn't where I imagined landing, but that's where I was, and it worked. I found a one-bedroom condo near the water. It was modern, clean, and dirt cheap, the kind of place that would have been snapped up in minutes before the pandemic. I signed a lease, thinking it'd be short-term, maybe 3 months tops. It turned into years. My days fell into a rhythm. I'd walk along the beach in the early mornings before the sun turned the sand into fire. I hit the gym every other day, kept my meals clean, even started cooking again. I played my guitar in the evenings, the same one I'd been carrying with me since Austin, and slowly the stress I'd built up over 30 years began to unravel. I wasn't trying to make friends or chase adventure. I'd had enough noise in my life. What I needed was space to hear myself think. Pattaya, strangely, gave me that. People always think of the city for its nightlife, its chaos, but during lockdown, it was almost serene. No traffic, no tourists, just quiet. It felt like I had the whole place to myself, and for a while, I thought I'd found something real. Looking back now, I wonder if it was just an illusion, a pause between storms, a false sense of peace before something deeper pulled me in. I didn't know it yet, but I wasn't as settled as I thought. It was almost a year after things started opening up again, when the boys finally came. 6 of them, old friends from back in the States. Guys I'd known for decades, college days, late nights, bad ideas, and good laughs. We'd all taken different paths, spread across cities and careers, but somehow we always stayed in touch. When they heard I was living in Thailand, especially in Pattaya, they lit up like kids. To them this place was the stuff of legends. Exotic beaches, cheap drinks, and whatever else they had imagined Pattaya to be over the years. I told them to relax their expectations, that it wasn't what they thought, but I think part of me already knew what was coming. They booked 2 weeks. I helped them find a nice hotel near the beach, not far from my condo. The moment they arrived, it was like time folded in on itself. We were 25 again, laughing at the same jokes, talking about girls, music, memories that never stopped feeling fresh. One of them, James had just gone through a brutal divorce. He was the one who seemed the most excited, or maybe the most desperate. His wife had left him after almost 20 years. He lost the house, custody, even some of his savings. He didn't say much about it, but you could see it on him. He wore it in his posture. The guy was broken. I figured this trip was his way to breathe again. The first few days were simple. Mornings on the beach, seafood lunches, a few rounds of golf. We'd grab a drink in the evening, eat something good, play cards, talk nonsense. It was light-hearted, easy. I hadn't laughed like that in a long time, but by day 4, James started getting antsy. He pulled me aside after dinner and asked about Soy 6, said he'd read about it online. Some guys at the bar mentioned it too. He wanted to check it out. At first I told him no, said it wasn't really my thing, and that was the truth. I hadn't even been down that street since I moved here. But he gave me a look, that heavy hollow look, and said, "Just once, man. Just come with me. I don't want to go alone." I don't know what made me say yes. Maybe I felt sorry for him. Maybe I just didn't want to sit in silence that night. So I went. And that night changed more than I ever expected. I remember walking down Soy 6, that first night with James like it happened yesterday. The street was loud, alive, packed with flashing lights and voices layered over music that never quite faded. Bars stacked on top of each other. Girls leaning out and calling to us with smiles, too smooth to be anything but practiced. I'd passed by once or twice during the day, kept my distance, told myself it wasn't for me, but at night, it was different. Magnetic in a way I didn't want to admit. There was an energy there, a dangerous one. But for someone like James, it was like oxygen. He was grinning before we even stepped inside the first place. I could see it happening in real time, the way a man crawls out of sadness when someone makes him feel seen again. The first girl that sat next to him touched his shoulder and laughed, like he was the most interesting man in the world. I hadn't seen him look like that in years. I ordered a beer, thinking I'd sit in the corner and keep him company for an hour, maybe 2, nothing more. But then she walked over. She couldn't have been more than 24. Big smile, perfect posture, soft voice. She wasn't aggressive, just kind, calm. She asked me where I was from, and before I could say Texas, I was already smiling back. I hadn't planned on talking. I hadn't planned on anything. An hour turned into 4. We were laughing, drinking. She held my hand like she meant it. I told myself I was just being polite, just relaxing, but I could feel something I hadn't felt in years, that weightless feeling you get when someone looks at you like you matter. James ended up leaving with his girl around midnight. He gave me a thumbs up on his way out. I stayed a little longer. Eventually we left together. She came back to my condo. No bar fine, no negotiations, no mention of money, just soft conversation in the back of a taxi, and her head resting on my shoulder. I told myself this wasn't a habit, that it was a one-off, something we'd laugh about when we got older. But deep down, I knew better. I didn't want it to be the last time. Soy 6 hit me harder than I expected. The moment James and I turned onto the street, it was like walking into a different reality. Neon everywhere. Music pulsing from every direction. Girls lined up at bar fronts like they were part of the decor, smiling, waving, calling out in that playful tone that makes you feel like the main character in a movie you didn't know you were starring in. I hadn't been down there at night before. During the day, it always looked tired, like a carnival after the crowds leave. But now it was electric. Alive in a way that both pulled me in and made me want to turn around. James didn't hesitate. He picked a bar at random, ordered drinks, and was already chatting up a girl before I'd even sat down properly. She was laughing at everything he said, rubbing his shoulder, leaning into him like they'd known each other forever. For a guy who'd been kicked in the teeth by life recently, it was like someone handed him back his confidence. I wasn't looking for anything. Honestly, I thought I'd sit there, have a drink or two, keep him company, and head home. But then she came over. I still remember the color of her dress. Bright red, soft fabric, delicate gold earrings. Her voice was gentle, not pushy, and when she asked if she could sit, I nodded before thinking. She wasn't the most beautiful woman in the bar, but something about her calmed me. It wasn't lust. It was something quieter, something I hadn't felt in years. She touched my arm like it meant something. She smiled with her eyes. We talked, laughed a little. She poured me a drink. I told myself it was harmless. An hour passed, then 2. James was already gone by then, left with his girl after paying the bar fine without hesitation. I looked at mine, and without a word, I stood up and paid hers. It felt easy, natural, like I was buying time, not a transaction. She came back to my condo. We stayed up late, talking and drinking. It wasn't romantic, but it was warm, human. And when she left the next morning, I stood at the door longer than I should have. I told myself I'd forget her name, but I didn't. The next morning, I met up with the rest of the group for breakfast. We sat at one of those quiet beachfront cafes with cheap eggs, strong coffee, and the ocean just a few feet away. Everyone looked a bit worse for wear. A little sunburned, a little hungover, except James. He looked different. His energy was lighter, like something had been shaken off. He wasn't just smiling, he was glowing. The guy who'd barely said 2 words when he arrived was suddenly telling stories, making jokes, talking like he was 20 again. He didn't go into details. None of us did, but we didn't have to. The next night, 2 more of the guys wanted to go. Not James this time. The married ones. I won't name them. It doesn't matter. At first, I was shocked. I thought they were just curious. I figured they'd have a drink, see the scene, and call it a night. But when we got there, they slid into it like they'd done it before, laughing with the girls, ordering shots, soaking up the attention like they'd been waiting for it. I remember watching them, wedding rings still on, and feeling something twist in my stomach. I wasn't judging them. Not really, but there was something about it that didn't sit right with me. They had wives, kids, families waiting for them. And yet, here they were, paying bar fines, holding hands, smiling like they didn't have a care in the world. And me, I had no one, no obligations, no expectations. So why did I feel like I was the one doing something wrong? That thought stayed with me. I didn't say anything. None of us did. That's the unspoken rule on these kinds of trips. What happens in Thailand, stays in Thailand, or so we tell ourselves. But something had shifted. The line had been crossed, not just by them, by me too. And once you've crossed it, it gets harder and harder to see where it ever was. Our last night together was meant to be a quiet one. Everyone was flying out the next day, and we had agreed to just have dinner, share a few drinks, and call it early. But somewhere between the steakhouse and the second round of beers, someone suggested we head back to Soe 6 for one final goodbye. I wasn't feeling it. My body was tired, my mind even more so. The whole week had felt like a blur, a collision of nostalgia, alcohol, and too many blurred lines. I could feel myself pulling back, like something inside me wanted to slow down before it all went off the rails. But I went anyway. We stuck to the same few bars, familiar faces, familiar music. The same girls from the nights before greeted us like old friends, sliding into place beside us like we were picking up right where we left off. The bar was packed that night, louder than usual, the kind of loud that makes your skin buzz. People were bumping into each other, the floor slightly sticky from spilled drinks, and the whole place felt a little off. But I stayed. I was standing near the bar when someone behind me stumbled, shoved by a drunken crowd. He hit me hard enough that I slammed into the edge of a doorway, hand first. I heard the crack before I felt it. The pain was sharp and immediate. At first, I thought it was a sprain, but as the hours dragged on and the swelling grew, I knew it was something worse. By the next morning, my hand was twice its normal size, and I couldn't even button my shirt. The others left as planned. They hugged me goodbye in the hotel lobby, promised to plan another trip, said they'd message when they landed. I smiled, told them I was fine, waved them off with my good hand, and then I was alone again. It was quiet in a different way now, the kind of quiet that reminds you what happens when the party ends and the room empties. I thought I'd be relieved to get back to my routine, the gym, the beach, my quiet dinners, but instead I felt hollow, not from the injury, from something deeper I didn't want to name. The cast came off 6 weeks later. By then, the bruising was gone, but something else had started to set in, something I hadn't noticed right away. It wasn't physical. It was the restlessness. The silence in the evenings, the long stretches of time with no one to talk to, and nothing pulling me forward. My routine was still there. Gym in the morning, coffee on the balcony, guitar at night, but it started to feel mechanical, empty. I told myself I just needed a change of pace, something light, a night out. I walked past Soe 6 one evening, on the way back from dinner. I wasn't planning to stop, I was just passing through. But the music pulled me in like a smell from a bakery, when you haven't eaten all day. Familiar, warm, slightly intoxicating. I stood there on the sidewalk, watching. I told myself, I'd just look, just walk through once and head home. I didn't. One of the girls from a few months earlier recognized me. She waved, smiled like I'd just come back from war. Before I could talk myself out of it, I was sitting on a bar stool with a drink in my hand, and her arm resting gently on mine. That was all it took. It didn't happen overnight, but over the next few months, I started going more often. Once a week turned into twice, then 3 times. The girls rotated. Some I barely remembered, some remembered me. They always remembered my name, even when I forgot theirs. I convinced myself I was still in control. I had limits. I wasn't going every day. I wasn't falling in love. I wasn't like the other guys. But that was a lie. I told myself to feel better. What I was chasing wasn't sex, it was something else. It was the look, that warmth, that temporary illusion of being wanted, of being known. And once you start buying that feeling, it's not long before you can't feel whole without it. It's strange how quickly something becomes normal. At first I kept track, nights out, what I spent, who I saw. But over time the receipts blurred. The names faded, the guilt got quieter. I was going out 4, sometimes 5 nights a week. I told myself I was still taking care of myself, because I went to the gym and ate clean during the day. I still paid my bills on time, still looked put together. But behind all of that, I was spiraling. The money went fast, faster than I ever expected. Bar fines, drinks, girlfriend experience nights with freelancers, luxury vacations with my favorite girls. I went to the Bahamas, the Maldives, tropical destinations. I ran the numbers one day out of curiosity, and when I added it all up, it hit me like a wave. I had spent over $250K in less than a year and a half, more than $200K spent on nightlife, women, gifts, luxury vacations, and living in a fantasy. I felt sick, not because of the amount, but because I couldn't honestly say I regretted it. That's what scared me the most. There were nights I'd wake up next to someone, and not remember the night before. Mornings where I'd walk past my own reflection, and not recognize the man in the glass. A part of me wanted to stop. I even tried once, deleted the contacts, swore I'd stay in for a month. That lasted 5 days. I had never been addicted to anything before, never touched drugs, never had a problem with alcohol. But this was different. This was emotional, quiet. It wore a smile and smelled like perfume, and it filled a space I didn't even know I had left open. I started canceling plans with friends, skipping guitar, turning down beach walks just so I could sleep in and be fresh for the next night out. I wasn't living anymore. I was managing desire, paying for connection like it was a subscription service I couldn't unsubscribe from. And the worst part, I knew it. I knew exactly what I was doing, and I did it anyway. It didn't happen because of one big moment. There was no rock bottom, no dramatic fallout, no girl running off with my wallet or threatening me with messages. It just wore me down. One morning, I woke up and didn't feel like getting out of bed, not from exhaustion, from emptiness. I had gone out the night before, spent nearly 10,000 baht on dinner, drinks, a bar fine, and a hotel room. She left early like they usually do, saying she had to visit her cousin, or maybe it was her friend. I'd stopped listening to the excuses. I lay there staring at the ceiling, and I finally asked myself something I had avoided for too long. What am I doing? It wasn't a crisis. It was quiet, calm, but it hit harder than anything. I started making changes. Nothing major at first. I limited myself to 2 nights out a week. No bar fines unless I'd already known the girl. No gifts, no rent payments, no phones. I deleted half my contacts online, turned off notifications, told a few of the girls I was busy with family. A soft excuse, but one they understood. There's always another guy to move on to. That's the part that stings when you finally stop pretending. I went back to walking the beach in the mornings, brought out the guitar again, cooked at home more, relearned what silence felt like when it wasn't followed by a text asking for money. Some nights were harder than others. I'd sit with a beer on the balcony and feel the pull, that old itch, the urge to message someone, to be wanted again even if it cost me. But I held the line, not because I stopped needing connection, but because I finally understood what I was really buying. It wasn't companionship. It was fantasy, affection that evaporated the moment the money stopped. I wasn't addicted to women. I was addicted to the feeling of being needed, even if it was rented. Looking back now, I'm not angry at anyone. Not the girls, not the bars, not even myself, not entirely. I walked into all of it with my eyes open. I knew the rules. I just kept hoping the game would change for me, but it never did. I was a successful man by most standards. I made more money in my career than I ever imagined I would. I owned property. I retired early. I lived on my own terms. But I still got caught. Why? Because I was lonely, and because I never learned what to do with that loneliness. I never really felt connected to women back home. It always felt like a negotiation, like something I had to prove. But here in Thailand, with these girls, it felt easy, simple. They were soft in a way I hadn't experienced before, gentle, attentive, caring. Even if I knew it wasn't real, I still wanted to believe it. It filled something inside me, not just desire, but the deeper ache. The part that wants to be seen, held, told that you matter, even if just for a night. I'm not proud of how much I spent. I still wince at the number. Over $200,000 gone in under 2 years. But the part that hurts the most isn't the money. It's that I gave pieces of myself away, and most of them didn't even remember my name a month later. If there's one thing I can say to anyone listening, it's this: if you don't have strong self-control, don't come to Pattaya. Not because the place is evil, not because the women are bad, but because everything here feels too good when you're vulnerable. And if you're even a little bit lonely, this city knows exactly how to wrap its arms around you and empty your soul while smiling sweetly. You think you're in control right up until you're not. I had money. I had freedom. I had 30 years of discipline, but I was a sucker for love, and in Pattaya, that's all it takes to lose yourself.